and call meeting to order at 6:01. Welcome everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go ahead and be seated. I do need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We will move right into the work session for the curriculum data continuous improvement plan.
Okay.
All right. Jake Massey, Assistant Superintendent. I feel like I got special permission tonight to drive
Yes.
the mouse, so thank you for that. Thank you guys for being here. Really do appreciate your time. I know that this is one more meeting and you all are very busy. I want to acknowledge that we don't usually do presentations, and I understand that that's the board's preference, or it has been in the past. I did prepare a presentation tonight, mostly because I feel like that's the most productive way for me to guide the conversation through all of these different things. And so while I will be on a slide as we move through some of these topics, I just want to make it abundantly clear that I expect this to be very conversational. And so this really is just an attempt to keep us on track. And if nothing else, you can think of it as kind of some training wheels for me the first time I do this with you guys. So I hope that's acceptable.
I have a question. Can we turn that monitor on behind you also? I think it might be a little hard for these guys to tweak their neck to see.
Love it. Absolutely. This one is the LG.
Put that one on so you can read it better.
Here you go. Do we have that one on remote too?
There you go.
Well, it would be good if both of them were on, that way we can, they're still both a little far away.
Turn that one on.
There it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. That's
Yep.
really good. So as always, we just want to start off all of these conversations with a reminder of our updated mission statement. We have one mission in our district, even though we have multiple sites, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for every student every single day. And so we're going to talk a little bit about curriculum, we're going to talk about our processes, and mostly our outcomes that we want to see academically this year. And so the tone that we always want to set is just making sure that we're making these decisions based on what is best for kids. And second, in this conversation, we want to operate with trust. Just candidly, I want to acknowledge that both Mr. Taylor and I stepped into some goals that were set, not by us. And we were kind of left to interpret that a little bit. And so I might have some questions about what happened in the past. The reason why I bring this up here on the trust page is that I just want to acknowledge publicly and to the board that I don't have any criticism of what happened in the past, but we are seeking to understand a little bit of what happened then. So, all right. First step for us tonight is I do want to talk a little bit about where we're at with our curriculum. I've included a couple of links here, and my plan is just to open these up kind of systematically so that we can go through one at a time. First thing is the curriculum handbook. It should look pretty familiar to you guys. You just approved it in the last board meeting, and so it should be very, very familiar. I just want to highlight, not only for the board, but because this is a recorded meeting that the public takes in, this is a great place for people to go and see our processes. They can see processes related to how we adopt and approve supplemental materials. They can see processes about our curriculum adoption rotation cycle, committee application, all sorts of different things here. Guiding protocols for how we use the novels, lots of different things. Again, I realize this was already approved, so I don't want to dwell here if there aren't any questions. Any questions about this tool? Okay.
The curriculum handbook though is on our website, correct?
I believe it is.
Okay.
And I tell you what, that's gonna actually be our next stop.
Okay.
So I want to talk a little bit about transparency and availability. This link goes directly to our curriculum page on the website.
Okay.
It is really important for us to continue this process and acknowledge that we have done a very good job, I believe, of making sure that all of our resources are available to the public. All of our resources are available in the district office for viewing at any time, same as at every school site. But they also, parents and patrons can make an appointment to come to the district office to view those. And then all of the processes are available here on the website too. And so this is the adoption cycle. Michelle, I don't see that the handbook specifically is listed here,
Okay.
but we can talk about that.
Okay.
One thing that I do want to highlight that we post publicly is this is a list, a directory of all of our core curriculum resources.
Okay.
It's available on the website. It's updated regularly. I personally just updated it this August to include our new social studies curriculum. And so it goes through grade by grade, subject by subject, all of the core curriculum that we use.
Okay.
Okay. As you scroll down, you'll see things that don't lend themselves to a table very well. There's a lot of information in here. And so again, I want to reiterate that this is available to the public at all times.
Okay.
So, any questions there? Okay. All right. Okay. Supplemental materials. Again, I just want to bring this up because this is something that I know we do in a pretty unique way in Lakeland Joint School District. I will continue to bring those materials to the board on a monthly basis at regular board meetings. The process is established. Principals are kind of up and running with that now that we've done it for a few years, and we'll continue that process. Okay. Any questions about curriculum? Okay. Okay. All right.
Get into the fun part now.
Yeah, get into the fun part. Here we go. So next up, let's talk about data. I specifically wanted to include this information because before we get to the CIP plan, I just want to, again, even if the board is already aware, for the public who might be watching this meeting, want to identify that the CIP plan, the Continuous Improvement Plan, has multiple levels of data included on it. And I think it's important that we recognize the differences between some of those levels of data. The first layer that's referenced in the CIP comes from the Idaho report card. This is linked in for anybody to click on. It's also very easy to get to online. This is a great tool from the state.
And it was just established, right?
It was just established this summer where you can go to Lakeland, they call us Lakeland District, so we'll fix that. It'll be Lakeland Joint School District. And you can see all of the accountability measures that we're held accountable to. So this is a great tool. That's the first layer in the CIP plan. It's a 30,000 foot view. All of that data is pretty difficult to drill down into in terms of cause and effect with students in classrooms, but it's an important outcome that we want to report and make sure that we're acknowledging. The next thing here is we have a lot of standardized tests. We have some tests that are required for us to take, like the ISAT and the IRI. We also have a handful of standardized tests that are not required, like the SAT, like the ISIP that K-3 students take monthly, iReady Math, Math Growth, etc. And then finally, we have some in-district measures. And so things that, in my mind, these are the most actionable things because it's measured at the classroom level by our own people, and we're actually seeing progress in students month to month that we're tracking.
And it can be reactionary to those data.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are things that we can be responsive to. So, any questions about those levels of data or some of the things that we're going to look at? Okay. Okay. All right. So the Continuous Improvement Plan has two parts. First part, as you're probably aware, is all about, it's just a narrative. It's an introduction to the school district. It kind of forces us to state our mission and vision. We'll dig into that in just a minute. And it also kind of forces us to describe how we take parent and community input into the creation of the plan. The second part of the SIP plan, and this is where the meat is all of the metrics. And so we'll talk about all of those metrics just like we have done in the past. Some considerations about the SIP plan before we open it up. It's a standardized format. It's not something that we have the ability to change. And so whenever we look at it and it looks a little bit clunky and a little bit awkward, that's just a state template that everybody has to use. Some of the criteria that we are held accountable to is not our choice. I think all of the data there is really valuable. I'm glad that we are reporting on all of those things, but it's not all our own measures. And then finally, and I'm gonna go through this whenever we actually open the SIP plan, is just that we have some assessments that are changing this year. We have a brand new IRI. And so we're gonna set a goal together on what we want our IRI outcomes to be this spring, but none of our students have taken that test yet. It's brand new. And so we're shooting in the dark a little bit. And I just want to acknowledge that. So. All right, are there any questions about this before we jump in? Okay, all right, let's just go ahead and get to it then. So this first part here is the narrative. And the section that we want to start with,
Because all the other stuff is already there, right? What you just scrolled over.
everything that I just scrolled through is just instructions and rules.
Yep.
Right, so I didn't skip any content that we're accountable to entering.
Except for the vision, that's below where we're at right here,
Yep.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, but Ramona, I'm glad that you brought that up because I do want to talk about that. The first field that we're required to enter is our mission and vision. We have to have one in Lakeland. We realize, Mr. Taylor and I, that we're both new to our positions. We have, I believe, established, if not formally, we've established that we have a new mission, and that's one district, one mission, every student, every day. We haven't quite gotten to establishing a brand new vision statement for our school district yet. I think that Mr. Taylor has some ideas about how to roll that out in the next month or so. But I do want you guys to know that even though I left that as in progress, just for transparency with you guys, that we know that we're going to be working on this, I can always submit this to the state with the vision that we submitted last year. And then whenever we do update something, I can go back and revise it at the state level.
So then are we adopting the motto as the mission?
Well, we're playing with it at this point. Jake just said, hey, and I said for a placeholder, let's just take a look at that. And because he'd actually looked up the definition and the term, he goes, Rusty, the motto is more of a mission. And I'm like, well, okay. But the bottom line is nothing's been accepted at this point. And we can, like Jake, he's like, well, is it when are we going to do it? And I said, right now, to be honest with you, I don't have a forecast of that because I'm trying to get to know the district. And then I want to do it through a process where we do have multiple stakeholders involved, and then ultimately come to the board with some recommendations and that. So that's just going to take a little bit of time. But like Jake says, if not anything, we can go ahead and put in what was previously stated, and then we can revise if needed. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't it be more appropriate, given the time requirements on this, to use the mission that's been within the district and then?
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. And that's what Jake said. He has no problem with, he just wanted to know the timeline. And I said, Jake, I don't know yet. So I would say, Jake, at this point, just put in the previous information and go from there.
Absolutely, yeah, we can put that in there, and I feel like this, in terms of submitting a plan that meets the state requirements, that's low stakes for us.
Right.
We'll put in the old mission. Again, I just wanted to acknowledge candidly that this is something that we know we're working on, and we want board input with it as well. Okay. The second and final section that we're required to have a response in this first step is community involvement. In the paragraphs that I wrote, and I'll let you read it for yourself, just refers to practices that we've had in previous years that have informed our goals and conversations.
Okay. I guess I'm a little cautioned because the long range planning committee was on again, off again, canceled because of a failed levy, etc. So I'm curious how accurate that is. And then the parent community Do you know when they met? 'Cause unless we're talking about like PTOs, PTUs, and that's what we're umbrellaing under this parent committee, advisory committees?
Yeah. So in my understanding last year, and if I look back at the calendar, there were certainly through at least the first 2/3 of the school year, there were monthly parent community advisory meetings held by the superintendent with an open agenda where community members and parents could come in and ask questions, express concerns. Sometimes they emailed her ahead of time for a discussion item so that she would be prepared to kind of have a response for them. That was a regular occurring thing.
Yeah. The meeting actually was not created by the district. The group was created by the community. It since has morphed, and the original founding members, I don't believe, are no longer involved. And then it was picked up by the district and became something of the district. Yeah. And I think that's what he's referring to.
Yeah. That is absolutely what I'm referring to. And if we look at our own website, it's just listed there as an opportunity at date. And
so it is listed on the website. People can find it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Now this is all in reference to last year. Yeah.
Right.
And so I do want to be cautious about that. We don't have those on the calendar right now, but they did happen last year. And I believe that those conversations, I think we're being truthful in saying that those conversations informed our planning for this year. So, to answer your other question, Michelle, long range planning committee, I absolutely hear what you're saying. I was at, I believe, most of those meetings myself. I know several board members were there too. Did we talk specifically about the CIP plan or student data? We did not. But I do remember very specifically that Superintendent Arnold at the time brought up the district's strategic plan, and and even though the long-range planning committee kind of bounced around, it seemed like both with meeting dates and with topics at those meetings, there was always opportunity for parents to ask some questions.
And I think that's what you're looking for. An opportunity to have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Everything in the second paragraph was intended to be at the school level. And so all school leaders, and this is still taking place, they call them different things in every building, but they hold regular meetings with parents. I know the new Garwood principal held a donuts and coffee with Mrs. Hensel this morning. Those meetings are happening regularly with patrons so that they can have opportunity to give input.
So not to take us too far off track, but for next year, long range planning committee is not running right now. The other thing is not running either. So
the long range,
what are we planning on doing to make sure we have this department covered for next year?
we're probably looking at, I've spoken to Rebecca, we're going to schedule the long range planning committee. That's a given, just because of the growth, and it just makes good sense. That's going to happen. It's just we're getting school started and we're busy getting things going.
Yeah, and I hate to lean into this as an excuse, because that's at the forefront of our thinking too, is we want to get these systems up and running. We want to be responsive to our community. We want to have those regular opportunities. And the piece that I don't mean to make an excuse is just that we're kind of getting our feet under us a little bit. And so we don't want to lean into that too much, but it also is just going to take a little bit of time to get those things on the calendar. So, is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Any other questions about part one for the SIP? Okay.
So is this what you're proposing that is submitted to the state? Is that what I'm just trying to, or is this?
Yes,
Okay.
This is what I'm proposing is submitted to the state.
Okay.
With the obvious exception, I'll put in a vision statement there so that we have something in that field.
And the current mission.
In the current mission.
Yep.
Yeah. Goes back to the current mission. All right, part two is the metrics. Are we ready for this?
Yeah, I can tell.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Randy, I needed your expertise a little bit. This is an Excel spreadsheet that I had to PDF for the meeting. And so I just want to acknowledge that some of the formatting is a little bit funky. It will not be that way whenever we submit it to the state, but getting it from 2 pages down to a PDF for this meeting was a little bit of a trip. So this first section here, called Student Achievement and Growth Metrics, just compares last year's targets to last year's actuals for things like big picture measures. So we're talking graduation and ISATs. The first section here that we're reporting on is the 4-year cohort graduation rate. Our goal was 95, our actual was 95.1. And this is where, absolutely, I would love to hear your thoughts. I put in some placeholders here as a draft, but all of this is absolutely up for discussion. My thought was to just go with 95% again, because that's a pretty high goal, and even though we achieved it, I think that's still setting the bar pretty high for ourselves.
Well, we did tell the community we had 100% graduation rate.
We did, I believe, at Timberlake High School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the previous years. This actual school year, they're not saying that we had 100% graduate. Nobody's made that statement this year for the
Well, it was during the
24-25.
levy. Yeah.
Right, but that was for previous years.
Oh.
That school year wasn't even done yet. The one that we're talking about right now.
Mm.
So nobody's made that claim for the 24-25 school year that just ended in June. It actually was 95.1.
This is also.
Oh, I know what it was.
This is also the cohort number, which
Right.
takes into account students who leave Lakeland to go elsewhere.
Correct.
100%
Right.
that was put out to the community as part of the levy was just the students who were still in Lakeland to graduate their senior year.
Right.
The cohort number was still presented on that same piece, but below it was less than 100%.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
I appreciate that clarification. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are all numbers that the board set last year. So every year the board was doing a 3% increase, I think is what the expectation was. Not necessarily for graduation, but I know all the other numbers. So these are all set by the board because ultimately it's the board's document to the state. With the input of the community and, everybody. I think it's very specific, teachers, parents, blah, 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 everybody. Just so people understand that also. I mean, I don't have any problem with continuing at 3%. I mean, I think if it's been said in the past, really we'd like 100%, but 3%, across the board, I guess.
Right, and we had based the 3% not off of the targets that we didn't meet, we met. We increased 3% off of our actuals.
Correct.
Because we wanted to raise the bar on,
Right.
This is where we actually are, so let's raise that up.
Right, and those numbers that we'll say there were, I don't remember what it was, but say there were second grade numbers, we would look at first grade, as an
Right.
example, we would look at first grade. The
Right.
prior year, right, and go, okay, so first graders for last school year got da-da-da, so second, we use that number to project the 3% for
that specific
assuming that
With
that
that
cohort
group
moves
of
forward.
kids, yeah.
Right.
Instead of just looking at second grade per se and saying, oh, we're just gonna give them 3%. So we tried to make sure that,
We were following the grade.
yeah,
That
and that
it was continuous improvement
Right.
for those students moving
Right, yeah.
forward.
Sure.
Not
Okay.
just,
Okay. Okay. So are we comfortable leaving this at 95%, or would we like to talk about increasing it?
well, I think in my opinion, I think if our focus is bringing up the proficiency in the other numbers that, although I know it's not K through 12 numbers, but
Sure.
if we're focused on proficiency and all those things, then ultimately it should translate into the graduation rate, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So my opinion, the focus was really, I'm fine with 95, we really need to focus on the proficiency
Okay.
thing. In fact, there was a report that came out today looking nationally and how far off, hitting the mark nationally, the kids are with math and ELA and science and blah, blah, blah. They were quite low.
Sure. Okay.
Ours were actually above a lot of those numbers.
So the next section then looks at ISAT proficiency and growth. So if we look specifically at proficiency on grade 8 math, our goal was 50%, our actual was 44. So what I did as a placeholder, and again, I do want to acknowledge, I absolutely want this to be a discussion. I didn't intend to make decisions ahead of time, but just
No, you're
I
fine.
have some
Yeah.
ideas, yeah.
Yeah.
What I heard from you, Ramona, is that we might want to set this at 3% from the actual.
Yes.
For the
Whereas-
7th graders.
Right.
But
Right.
7th graders don't do ISATs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So then realistically, knowing where we are, it should be from historical 47%, because we came in at 44, so we're gonna try and raise that
We're gonna raise
with
that
the
bar.
current, with the incoming 8th graders that we currently have.
Sure. That's fair.
Can you scroll up,
That
what
is
is
fair.
the headings on this table there? The years, okay, so targets, actuals, okay, so wasn't there one where we showed prior year also, so where were we,
Well, the 24-25 is technically the prior year.
well, I know, but I mean
Past
before that,
years.
because we had a 50% target for a reason, and if
Right.
we were that far under the target, I would like to know why.
Yeah, I just
What
searched our
happened?
website, I don't see the SIP plan on there, I don't know.
Yeah, it's under the combined community, blah, 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 yeah, the organization of the
Oh,
website
okay.
needs a little help.
And I will say,
It's
this is,
combined district plan.
in only the narrative is posted on there. I
We don't
actually,
have numbers?
I actually reached out to the state board to get our copy of what was submitted
Okay.
last year.
If you click on the big picture, it will actually download the document.
Okay. Okay. What we can do, so we can open up, if we look at our data analysis for last school year, we can dig in a little bit into those ISAT scores if you would like to.
That is a piece of wow. Now, was last year the implementation of the new curriculum, or was that year before? I don't remember. The math,
It would have been 2 years before.
okay.
Yeah. I will say for the middle school that that implementation was not quite as
Thorough, robust.
yeah, I don't want to say thorough or robust because I really respect the efforts that those teachers went through to make that adoption. It wasn't quite as simple as elementary, just saying, hey, here's our new pacing guide, here's our new program. Because they have different credits that they have to meet,
Sure.
and because they wanted to honor the work that had been done, identifying all of their standards and preparing their materials and assessments, I think that maybe it wasn't quite a full implementation right away. So
Okay.
I will tell you that a focus on getting to the basics with the curriculum is actually a focus of mine this year.
Okay.
We're putting quite a bit of resources in that direction in terms of giving those middle level teachers the resources that they need specifically in math
Okay.
to be able to support their students.
Yeah, can you let us know, like, if there's any issue with, needing more, development training, all that, you know?
Mhm.
Cause I mean, I don't want them to be stuck with a tool they can't use or that's just so frustrating.
Yep.
We really had no feedback
Yeah.
on that, you know, so that would be interesting too.
Yeah, do you mean specifically about the iReady math?
Yeah, the
Okay.
piece that we implemented, you know.
Yep, I do, yeah, and so, just really quick, I don't wanna get us off track too much here, but just to answer your question, based on the contract that we paid for with iReady years ago, this is not costing us any money today.
Mhm.
We have an amount of professional development days with them that has just
Right.
been sitting in a bank.
Oh.
And so I am
Okay.
using quite a few of those this year
Oh, good.
for all of our administrators and our middle school teachers as well.
Oh, good, that's great.
Just because whenever we adopted this in those early years, we used many of those days at the elementary level.
Mhm.
Elementary teachers got a lot of training and a lot of support on how to
Mhm.
use this tool. And middle school didn't do it in that same way. And so in my mind, we're kind of creating a fresh start a little
Okay.
bit at that middle level.
Okay, so that's a big explanation of why we see the scores that we see then.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, on October 15th, we have our first, we call it a growth and goals meeting, a data meeting essentially with the iReady folks specifically, just to have a check-in on how is it going. Here's what we taught you in the fall, here's what you did in the meantime, here's our progress in the first month and a half of school. We should be seeing some changes in our students.
Yeah, and do we ever survey the students to get their feedback on the you know, the curriculum? It's like, you know, is it working, not working, is it boring, is it too
You know,
easy, you know?
To be totally fair, I don't know if we survey them that specifically.
Uh-huh.
We absolutely survey all of our students every year. In fact, it's
Right.
part of our teacher's evaluation.
Right.
And so I would expect that at the middle and high school level, and again, I don't want to assume, I would
Sure.
expect, I haven't verified, that those surveys are content specific because the classes
Right.
are content specific. And so it's definitely something that we can
Yeah.
think
I just
about.
know when we were in the midst of COVID, we talked a lot with students about different things, and it was really great to have their input, and it helped us make decisions on like whether they liked the Google Classroom, whether they liked this, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, I was just curious.
Yeah, I appreciate, those are really good questions, and I want to acknowledge, now that we're looking at our ISAT data over the years, I misspoke a moment ago, 7th grade does take the math ISAT, it's just not reported on the
Okay.
site.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
and so if we take a look at the cohort, we look at 7th grade, in spring of, it would be 25, they were 53%.
Right.
Okay, and so 3% growth for that specific cohort would be 56% on our plan here.
Right.
Okay, are we comfortable with that, knowing that that's where those kids were?
Can we go to, oh, but that's a different, that wouldn't be, okay.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that's where they were.
Okay, okay, that sounds good. Adequate growth, this I think is really exciting. We set the goal at 47% of adequate growth for 8th graders on the math. 61.5% of them made adequate growth.
That's awesome.
And so just to define adequate growth, that doesn't mean that they're at grade level all of a sudden. It means that they made 1 year's worth of growth on the ISAT. And so maybe they went from below basic in 7th grade to now basic in 8th grade, but it's still an improvement. They're
Yeah, as long as
gaining
they're
ground.
growing.
They're gaining ground.
Right,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep, which is super exciting.
I mean, math isn't everybody's strong suit, you know, so.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yep, well said.
Things like growth rates, I think it's gonna be very, very difficult to take a cohort achievement score and add 3%, because just a lot of things change year to year. I don't know if it's gonna be quite that clean. Part of that is once kids do achieve that growth and they get closer to grade level, it's harder to make the same
Right.
level of growth, right? Because they're getting closer to that kind of ceiling of what they just don't know yet. So I had set this at 3% just over last year's goal. I think that that's attainable and realistic. I would expect to beat it again next year, but we can have a discussion about how we want to set that threshold.
Well, it may be hard to achieve, but I mean, we should always have, and I know the teachers do by building and stuff get together, you know, we should always have whatever how do they set their measurable growth rates? Cause I know they do, because I think that we should, you know, always be shooting for the sky when it comes to growth.
Sure.
I do understand the number may be hard, but
Yeah. Well, what I can do, and I don't mean to skip any more great conversation, but to save us some flipping back and forth
Sure.
from tab to tab, what I can do is I can go back and dig up what was the growth rate for our 7th graders, so that way we're going past year's cohort to this year's, and go 3% from that. And I can even do that down the line, if that's helpful.
I think that's
Do it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we can sit here going back and forth.
Right,
We
and
can
that's
do
just
screen
not the
for-
best use
Or
of
you can
your
just sit
time.
down and then.
I can sit down and do
Yeah.
it, and I can can do it.
Yeah, and then as long as we can find the explanation our own self, you know, like wherever you would grab the data from, as long as we
Yep,
understand how we got this, so we can explain it if somebody asks, you know.
absolutely. Yeah, in fact, all of this is a good opportunity to kind of speak to this for anyone who's watching in the public too. All of this information is available on that report card website.
Right.
Yep.
And so, not at the district level, you've got to search the school level to drill down to 7th grade and 8th
Yep.
grade, but you can find these percentages there.
And they're
So
charted out, they're in graphs.
They're charted out there in graphs, and so the only thing that we change to get from that website to here is we just take an average of whether it's the 2 middle schools or the 6 elementaries, and
Right.
take an average. So, I am happy to go ahead and go through that.
Okay, I'm just observing from the data that, cause we do have prior year data, that was provided in the comprehensive summative ISAT data analysis. Cause I'm just trying to figure out how, go back to your thingy, there we go.
Okay.
Because if it looks like on the percentage of students who made adequate growth, we took the percent of where they were. So we made it 47% from 7th grade of 2024
Okay.
for the spring. So if you in turn did that, that would be 53%. If you take the data that you've already created and
Yep.
utilized it from here, because I was trying to figure out some of the, without having the prior SIPs, which on our website we do have 2 years worth, but it's 2018, 2019, and 2020, 21.
Right.
I have no idea why we stopped putting them on the website because they should be there. That doesn't make any sense to me, but you know, I think that you can see
Mhm.
where the goals came from based off of the data from the prior year for the grades, etc. Now that you kind of have some understanding with what we looked at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again,
Some
now that I
things don't make sense,
understand
but-
your process that you went through last year, I'm happy to go back and I can pretty quickly
Okay.
Yep.
true
Perfect.
those out.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well with that then, I don't wanna spend too much time where you know that things are going to change, so I'm gonna focus on the actuals, okay? If we look at grade 8 ELA proficiency, 58%. If we look at the adequate growth, 57%. Again, that's not as high as 61.5 like in the math. If we look at in the academic world what is statistically relevant, it's over 50%, and so that's a positive measure. We want it to be much higher than that, but it's still a positive measure. Okay. Grade 6, proficiency on math ISAT, 43%. This is one of our focus areas as a district this year. I do want to say that it's not only a focus area at 6th grade, but at 5th grade, like what's contributing to this. Part of it is that 6th grade is a major transition year, and so it is a little bit normal to see some slipping in a bit of a dip there, but we would like to see this score much higher than it is. Adequate growth, 46.5. Again, saying that's less than 50%, we want to see that much higher than it is now. 6th grade ELA performance is 56. Growth is 49.6.
I'm curious why we dropped.
From 66 and 63.
Yeah, why the 5th grade class dropped as 6th grade. I get that you're saying it's the moving from the elementary into the middle arena.
And that's just a small piece of it. I don't mean to make that
No, and I
excuse.
understand that because we've been using the math, the ELA, etc. I'm real curious what the other contributing factors are to the decline.
Yeah. You know, and I don't have a great specific answer for you.
Okay.
You know.
Well, I would accept you too, but.
I appreciate that, but, you know, I do wanna just reiterate, that's where we're spending a lot of our energy this year, is really
Okay.
pushing into, you know, not getting after teachers for it, but making sure that they have the support. Do you have the tools that you need? Do you have same access to the professional development that the elementary teams got? Are we following up with you regularly throughout the year to measure progress? Are we talking about growth?
Right.
So.
Well, that's the best part about data, is it shows us our areas that we do need to concentrate and focus our resources on. And that's the whole point. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. The next section here is all about literacy proficiency. And so, similar structure as you're aware. First one there, number of students who score proficient on the kindergarten spring IRI. Our goal was 85%, and would you look at
Wow,
that?
hit it.
85%. I am curious about the board's kind of methodology for setting this goal, because we don't have a previous year before kindergarten. Are you all comfortable with setting this performance target for this year at 88%?
Knowing the test is changing, right?
I'm glad that you reminded me about
Yeah.
that. So this is one of those areas where the IRI this year is brand new. It is a completely different assessment. And so I do, any goal that we set is gonna be a bit of a shot in the dark, because we don't know what the new test looks like. Statewide, the average could be 40% proficient.
Yeah, and
Even
that
if
might
students are the
be,
same.
sorry, Jake, that might be applicable to first, second, third, but kindergarten, everything's new, right? So they don't, in their mind,
Yeah.
they,
Great point.
you know, it's,
Yep.
it doesn't really, they don't have any prior knowledge or,
Mhm.
you know, anything to recall. It's all a new experience to them.
Yep.
And we had been, what was advocated for the higher number, because we took 82% from 2024, added 3%, we came up to 85%,
Mhm.
was just the stringent training and refocusing that had been the target of the district administration within elementary.
Yep.
So, you know, that's,
Yeah.
I would say we definitely don't wanna go less than,
Mhm.
simply because, you know, the kindergartners this year were 83, so it would seem reasonable to, make it 86. So you're only going up 1%, but, I would imagine that the structure and the stringency within the teaching capacity at kindergarten hasn't gone down.
Right.
So, that would be my logic behind it.
Yeah, literacy was definitely a huge focus the last couple of years.
It has been, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would really hope it doesn't
That needs
swing
to-
down the hill.
Yeah, no,
but
that needs to
it
be
has to stay,
maintained forever,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That needs.
Well, and I can say, I feel like I can speak in this area with a lot of confidence, because I was a part of that initiative last year as an elementary principal and years leading up to it. You know, and the things that we're doing this year to maintain a tight focus are really, I mean, the effort is still there. That is 100% the best thing we can do for a school district, is make sure that kids can read by the end of third
Yeah,
grade. That
absolutely.
if you have to pick one thing, that's the one thing.
And are we still using VOAC and the phonetic base, okay,
Yes,
perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
nothing there has changed at all.
Okay,
The one example of how we're still trying to really invest a lot of purposeful energy, because we don't want new PD and new things just to have new things, right? We want
Right.
to reinforce what's working and
Right.
make sure that we have our head up,
Right.
paying attention to what else is out there. We are sending cohorts of teachers through what's called the Idaho Smart Project. That's a 2-year cohort program that the state provides for free, that schools that have done it, for example, Twin Lakes Elementary, saw their scores skyrocket with that training and support for their primary teachers. And so that training is all focused around early literacy, the building blocks of reading, phonics and phonemic awareness. It really just emphasizes how to use the tools that we've already deemed very important. But that's one area where we're investing some energy. We even have some of our administrators going through the program.
Yay, that's
Excellent.
awesome. That would be a good thing to report to the community, you know, so that they can see that, you know, we do try not only the students, but our team, our staff, teachers, we focus on them too. Like, we're trying to focus on every piece. I think sometimes that's lost in the
Yeah.
translation, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that's really good for the community to know that, you know, we understand this other piece too is just as critical,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so this maintains, continues to be a major focus area for us. Even though we're seeing success, we're not letting off the gas.
Right, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so students who score proficient in grade 1, our goal was 85. We were close. We were 81. We fell short of our goal. I want to acknowledge that. But district-wide, you know, I mean, I think about at least the school that I was in last year, we saw a lot of growth in our first grade group. Traditionally, that jump from kindergarten to first grade is one that's very difficult for students. We see that reflected in test scores. And so to get to over 80% as a district was, what I still believe an accomplishment, even though we didn't quite hit that goal. I left this at 85 just because I didn't want to lower our goal, and I believe that with this number, it's reasonable that we get there even accounting for that jump in rigor from kindergarten to first grade. So just an example of the jump. I don't mean to get into the weeds too much, but a lot of what's measured at the kindergarten level, you could think of as letters. Like do you know your letter names? Do you know your letter sounds? Do you know what letter teams represent, what sound they make? When you get to first grade, it instantly jumps to words, right? And so sometimes even kindergartners who are very proficient with letter names, letter sounds, by the time they get to actually having to blend words, it takes, developmentally this is appropriate that it takes a minute for them to develop that skill.
Well, given that the kindergartners were at 83%, it would seem reasonable to jump grade 1 to 86, because that would be a 3% increase. And part of the advantage of having the format that we did was when we circle back at the end of the year, we're like, where did we come up with that number? And people were like, I don't know. I mean, so then it was
consistent.
It does,
Yeah.
and you can backtrack yourself if you know, hey, that's what their approach was,
Yeah.
and because that's what I'm doing is just did we?
Yeah.
And we did.
Okay.
So
Okay,
yeah.
I understand. Yeah, Sierra, thank you for taking notes for me. Okay, grade 2. We came in low. This is an area that we want to really take a close look at. 76%. Our goal was 81. You know, again, I'll go back and readjust next year's goal based on the 3% from the cohort. Third grade, 74%. Our goal was 76. We were pretty close. Again, I'll go back and adjust. Fourth grade, we're talking about the ELA ISAT now, so this is a different test that's much more difficult. That's why we see this percentage drop. Our goal was 52, we were at 60, which is fantastic. That's good growth. That's more than what we expected to see. Okay, so we don't quite get to 5th grade here, but we see growth on the 4th grade ISAT. And so this is growth from 3rd grade to 4th grade. 62% of our kids made adequate growth.
That's great.
Yeah.
I know you said you had to like copy and paste the Excel sheet or something, but the template used to be fillable that they gave us. Was it not?
He just did it to attach it to the
Yeah.
agenda.
Oh,
He did it into a
okay.
PDF,
Okay.
and so that's what messed
Still is
up
full.
the
I thought if
formatting.
we printed it as a
Yeah.
PDF, then it would have
Yeah.
put everything in there, but I see what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm definitely learning to speak your language a little bit here, so I appreciate your patience with that.
Oh, yeah, no,
next
you're
year,
fine.
next year now I know exactly what you expect. So
Yeah, no, you're fine.
All good.
I'm taking notes. That's
This
not
is
your
always
Sierra.
I think in the past with this one, we would just literally work off of the spreadsheet.
Right.
Okay.
We did.
So that
Okay.
then you don't have to, you could fix it real time
I like
too.
that. See,
and
here
hop
I'm
into
being
the-
super formal, but I had a board agenda request.
When did you decide we were super formal? I'm just curious.
You know what? I don't want to blame it on you guys. It was me. I'm learning.
Blame the board.
This was
Everybody else does.
this was always a very collaborative
Yeah.
effort,
extremely
and you know,
Okay, well, I do appreciate that, and
Yeah.
next year that'll be a lot easier, so. Okay, so this next section, we're still talking about literacy goals, but these are targets that we get to set. So this is an area where I do wanna, I understand these because I've come from the elementary world, but I just kept exactly what was there from Lynn and Lisa.
Okay.
So this is correct sounds per minute. We set this at 100%. We want all of our kindergartners to be able to do that. We came in at 98.16.
Yay. I mean,
Not
that's
too
good.
shabby.
That's incredible. Yeah. And if you take a look at actually breaking down our kindergarten numbers, I mean, that's like a handful of kids who didn't need that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the other thing that's so amazing about that is that this has to be a focus because there is, sort of that's true. There is no funding, number one for kindergarten, right? So there's no funding for a lot of these things that we are tasked to do.
There's funding for
No.
half day.
Half
Right,
day.
yeah.
Right, but
Hey, we get half of kindergarten.
yeah, I mean,
We get the other half, we get half.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point and something that we really want to continue to tout as evidence that our full day kindergarten program is successful. And not only just having a full day of kindergarten, because you could waste a full day,
Sure.
but the way that we do it is effective. And it's good for kids developmentally, and most of all, they learn to love school, which I think is the best thing we can do it for them. First grade, correct words per minute, so here's that jump from sounds to words. We set a goal at 75, we hit 81.
Yes.
That's awesome. Second grade, we set a goal at 75, we hit 70. Third grade, we set a goal at 75, we hit 63.
What's happening there, Jake?
Well, I'm gonna give you my opinion. My opinion of what plays into this is I think that this is a measure, correct words per minute, that it's not a consistent benchmark from year to year. For example, for a first grader to be proficient at the end of the year in words correct per minute, don't quote me on this, but it might be 40 words correct per minute. Second grader might be 150, right? And so
it's a moving benchmark.
Yeah, and so it's a moving benchmark where even if a child is making adequate progress, a year's worth of growth in every other measure in literacy, we don't always see our words correct per minute catch up with that. Now that's a little bit of an excuse, and so what we're doing about it is we recognize that most curriculum tools in ELA don't have a strong fluency component. We adopted Amplify CKLA as our main reading resource, and we realized right away we need to supplement that program with fluency tasks in practice for students. And so it's been a pretty strong focus with the elementary team of researching what those best practices are and actually getting it down to the classroom level so that it's a focus. So what I'm really proud to say is, especially at the first and second grade level, if you walk into a first and second grade classroom in our district, you're going to see a lot of readers theater. You're going to see a lot of students time and text. You're going to see a lot of reading aloud. You're going to see a lot of audio book style kind of guided reading as students are actually making the sounds along with the words. Those are really good practices in increasing fluency rates. Have we, we're 2 years or so into that. Has it quite caught up to our third graders yet? Not quite, but we're definitely putting a lot of energy there. So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are my thoughts.
Were you still had some more thoughts, Bob, or you? The curriculum you spoke about, was that something we implemented through at this point? Was that a new curriculum that we did?
Several years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the board, I'll say this, I don't ever remember that coming back to the board as feedback. I wish we would have known, so, all those things, those little pieces really help us make appropriate decisions. And when we don't know
Sure.
that that's a need, that we need to fill this thing, then, money we're putting somewhere else, or, you know what I'm saying? We would have said, oh, that's not good, we've gotta do
We
this,
need
but.
to focus here.
Yeah, so we really need to know that, you know, when
Yeah.
there's something like that, I mean, cause that's huge, right? It's education, if it's academic focus, like, we need to understand there's this need, so we can meet the need as best as possible, you know?
Sure.
Well, in looking at.
Cause that makes me feel bad that there was something implemented and then, you know, the teachers didn't feel they had adequate tools or whatever happened, you know, direct reflection on the students isn't good.
Well, we still need to get through it first and to make that determination, right, Jay?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why we're having this conversation now.
Yep.
You know, I think the instructional teams at that level identify right away, hey, this is a tool that's missing. We took some action right away.
Sure.
I believe we're seeing success reflected in first grade and getting into second grade. Hopefully it'll bleed into third grade with those fluency practices.
Yeah.
You know, it's really uncommon for any sort of curriculum program to ever meet every need.
Sure.
You know, each one is going to have its strengths and weaknesses. And what I will say about our current program is that it really raised the bar for us in comprehension and in vocabulary,
Mhm.
And so those are trade-offs that you make with all of the curriculum
Right.
decisions, where I think that we're seeing a great benefit in students are reading at a much higher lexile level. They're reading harder texts now because
Mhm.
they're used to it with this new program.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't want to use the word sacrifice. You make choices with all of those selections, right?
Yeah.
And so we're always balancing how much in one area versus another.
Yeah, and that's fine, I understand, I get all of that, and there's never a magic wand, so to speak,
Sure.
for all of it,
Yeah.
you know? But I'll say if I know that, then that's always in the back of my head to know whenever something else comes up, you know, what's more important, that we have brand new paint, or that our kids can
Yeah.
read the best, or,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, as a father of elementary students and as a previous elementary principal and teacher, you know, this measure is important. We want to track it, but I'm going to put this at the bottom of the list compared to comprehension.
right,
You
yeah.
know, if a third grader comes out of third grade and they can read at the level that they need to and they're just slower,
Mhm.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a point where it's so slow that it impacts comprehension, and we address that definitely. You know, but if
Yeah, mine was more the focus on the teachers. I just want them to have
Having
the tools.
Yeah.
You know, cause nothing's more frustrating than to have a goal and not the tools to meet the goal.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
that's, yeah, I don't wanna
Well
put
said.
anybody in that position.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, what's interesting on the data is within first grade, we start out at the top and we're just sliding downhill. And then in third grade, it's the same, well, we've got a 50% drop in third grade. So I find that interesting.
Do you mean
I-
from the first trimester, second trimester, third trimester?
To the third, yeah. Just looking at the whole span of the whole year. So it would be very interesting to see if there's a consistent pattern
Yeah.
from year to year to year.
Yeah.
But I also know, which will see with data, that we went to trimesters, 2 years ago?
Yeah, this will be our
Okay.
third year in trimester.
So,
Yeah.
you know, you're not gonna necessarily have apples to apples on that, except for teachers. Yeah.
I guess the premise for my question is, and I understand what you said relevant to comprehension and that sort of thing, but when you see a trend line like that, we all know that by the end of third grade, our goal is that every kid can read well enough to carry it through the rest of the schooling.
Sure.
And when you see a downward trend like that, that's a big question mark.
Mhm.
Needs to be addressed.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see here. The final section, excuse me. There's two more sections. This college and career advising, these are metrics that we set,
Right.
district's chosen goal. I'll be honest with you, I attempted to get this data from high schools. In all fairness to them, they have been slammed. I do not have updated enough data to where I felt like I could confidently put it in here for the plan. And so I do have numbers from a couple of schools where they said, hey Jake, this is what I got right now. Give me another couple of weeks to go through and fine tune. I don't believe that they were aware that these are things that they needed to be tracking all along. And so they're having to go back through like some historical reports. So I apologize, this section is blank.
I don't think this is a new section on the CIP, because we've always had the data. That's why I was surprised that the data wasn't there.
Okay.
This isn't new. I mean, we've been,
Okay. Well, in
That's
that
interesting.
case, it's very possible then that the principals just weren't the ones responsible for collecting it.
Yep.
And if that's true, then that's on me.
Okay, I
I
wonder
just
if
need
it
to
was
learn how to get it.
Counselors,
Counselors.
registrars, yeah.
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 The college and career counselors, I do believe, track the data.
Okay.
And so I would encourage you to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And then maybe put a bug in their ear that, hey, you should probably give this to your principal.
Yeah.
So we're all on the same page and have all the same information.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now the last box here. Let's see. Last box here is all about measuring staff performance. And so the template puts staff into groups. Like you'll see all elementary teachers in ELA, all elementary teachers in math. We do get to choose the assessment tool. So that's our choice. We get to choose the target, and then I enter the results. This is one area where I do have a little bit of I don't understand. All of the goals from last year were set at 100%. And so that's just one thing that I want to acknowledge. I'm not quite sure what the rationale was, but maybe the board remembers. It didn't seem to follow the same pattern that all of the other goals did.
Because each teacher got to choose it wasn't that we chose what assessment it was, isn't it each teacher got to choose, and so they were all different.
Yeah, because it was
Okay.
in there, if I remember right, it was their,
It is
like
in their
Randy said,
evaluation.
their choice, and
Yeah.
they picked from what, like, there was no way for us to really, so we just assumed, I think, that it was,
Okay.
I think there was a lot of input from them to us, like we
Yeah.
didn't.
Okay. So what might be happening there, let me know if I'm not on the right track. When we do teacher evaluations, it's required by the state that as part of their evaluation, they set a goal for student achievement. As a district, we have always encouraged, required really, for their goal to be framed in language of 100%. All students will, insert goal, will achieve proficiency in this area. We set it that way because the state in the evaluation framework gives us leeway, and they can still be considered highly proficient as long as they're above 75%. So we just write it simply in terms of all students. That could be where this came from. I kind of interpreted this plan as being still the district level. Like we're not talking about individual teachers, we're talking about a group of 20 plus. Well, if it's K-5, we're talking about a group of over 100 teachers that collectively we want to see them score at a certain level. And it seems like 100% is great goal, maybe not realistic across the board.
Well, we want to choose attainable goals. I mean, yeah, pie in the sky is great, but yeah,
Sure.
it needs to be attainable.
Can you scroll up just a little bit so I can read the,
I can.
yeah, there you go. Oh yes, and this was the one also that we, that we sent in a disclaimer. This was something that they changed in that in a 5, we
Mhm.
didn't have.
Oh,
There was
okay.
something
Yeah.
with it that we didn't have, or something had changed, I don't remember, and it was part of the narrative in one of them.
Okay.
I
Part
think
of the
maybe it was the
explanation.
law. There was a statute that changed, and then something through the legislature changed, and they allowed the districts to do this thing where because we didn't meet that in a 5, whatever this
Yep.
was.
The relevant sample size.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yep. So that might be too why it's a little wonky, because there was a year or two where we just
Didn't
have to do it
Okay.
because, yeah.
Yep.
And the 5 or more who use the same assessment tool, that's where the caveat of
Yes.
it was looked at each individual teacher, cause, or that's why we did, that
Yes,
was
yes,
part of
yes.
it too, was
Gotcha.
not everybody, nobody uses the same thing, 'cause they
Right.
get to set their own.
They get to set their own.
So
Right.
that doesn't even make sense, to
Okay.
have 5 or more using the same
Right.
assessment tool.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, if that is the case, and I'll do some digging to see how we should
Yeah.
interpret this from the state
Yeah.
board's perspective. If that is the case, we have very few groups to report on this plan.
Correct.
It's basically only K3 that is mandated to have, they're the only ones who by law are required to set their goal around the IRI. Any other teacher in any other grade level gets to set their goal on
Yep.
whatever
Well,
measured.
Yeah, and I think this could have been it could have been any kind, like, it wasn't based, if I remember correctly, it wasn't based on one of the tests or whatever, it was just like, okay, what is your personal goal gonna be, kind of
Sure.
thing, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, that's what it was, and you might look back at some of the previous, the last couple of years and see if you can find somewhere the narrative part before it was sent in, or maybe whatever was sent in, because I do remember we wrote in that box why.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha, okay. So all of that said, I really appreciate the background.
Yeah.
This is
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah.
I thought maybe I would teach you guys something this evening.
Oh, no.
Look at me. I'm learning a lot. from
We're
you.
both learning.
Ah, grasshopper. Much to learn.
So, K5, we said for ELA, this said iStation last year. The new test is Amira,
Okay.
okay? And so we set it at 100%. District-wide, we were 75.3. As an elementary guy, I know that we tracked this very closely. We were steadily going up and up, which is something that's really cool. We want to be higher than 75 for sure.
Right.
But a few years ago, we were lower than 75. So we're on the right track there.
37 is a little concerning.
You can see my, these will obviously be adjusted whenever I go back. I had some placeholders.
Okay.
K5 math, we're using iReady diagnostic. This we set at 100%. We achieved 67.6. Again, that's one of those areas where we were lower than that in previous years, and so it's growth. We would love to see more growth. Yeah, we would love to see it higher than 67.
So maybe that's one of those things, and I know we've been working on this the last few years, at continuity throughout the district, and maybe that is one of the things that we find a tool, a measure of whatever it is that the elementary staff could use, and at least if they can obviously teach or do whatever they need to do in this subject to get a percentage for this tool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need to do, and then we can meet this better.
Yeah. And I would say that's happening.
Right.
Where we have different assessment measures is just where teachers set their individual goals.
Yeah.
If we look at K5 iReady, we are
Right.
talking about it quite a bit, and
Yeah.
every single student takes it in the same window every single year across the district.
Yeah, this
So-
is more of what is the district doing to measure on their own outside of these other tools?
Yep.
Is, what this is, so maybe that is like you say, we've been working on that for a few years, continuity across the district for all
Yeah.
grade levels.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And carrying it up into 6-8.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. 37% is lower than we want to be. Absolutely. And so I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but that's one of those focus areas where we're really putting some focused energy this year.
Especially with that professional development with those
Right.
Yes.
middle school.
Exactly. Yep. Making sure that they feel like they have the tools and they're supported. We have great teachers at those levels. I know that you guys know that.
Yeah.
They're just in flux going from one tool to another, and we all know that while you're changing lanes, stuff gets missed sometimes. So, 6-8 ELA, we started the year and set a goal with the NWEA MAP growth test. This is the same for science, so I'm just going to lump them together. Being the first year of that assessment, and again, I can't speak to exactly what happened here. We did not administer that assessment again in the springtime.
Okay.
I believe the general reason, big picture, was that we found ourselves in a position where we were giving our 6th through 8th graders a lot of tests in a short
Oh,
amount
yeah,
of
we
time.
don't wanna do that.
And our
Yeah.
administrators, I
Yeah.
think our administrators appropriately at that time said, hey, you know what? This is the
Right.
one that's not mandated by the state. We're just gonna peel this off and focus on the ISAT.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, yeah.
And so that leaves us with a no score right here, but I think that that's a little consequence compared to burning out our kids in the spring.
Yeah, and we all know how reliable these tests are anyways. I mean,
Yeah.
they're a good overall picture, but they're not, you know.
Well, Jake, you said it. It's a 30,000 foot
Right.
look. That's all.
Right.
The specifics you guys are asking for. That's the work that is done in the classroom.
Yeah.
Those formative assessments, things like that.
Yeah.
We're getting feedback on, and we're reacting to
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
results.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
and giving a student another test
Right.
is not going to increase
Right.
what they've learned.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, well, and we're really trying to take inventory of that this year, and so I've already strategized with our secondary principals on what are we gonna do with the NWA test this year. And we set some different testing windows. We know and we can predict now that we don't wanna over-test them in the spring when we're close to ISAT. And so we're gonna do it in the fall and in the winter, so that way, to Mr. Taylor's point, it's actually actionable information. We wanna be able to use the data, not just have it to report. It's important to have a measure to report, but. So high school, we have ELA, math, and science. Those are all the MAP tests. You can see our results are 52, 51, and 60. And so being the first year of the assessment, and that is a true fall to spring growth view. Being the first year of the assessment, we're not quite sure yet what to make of that. I think after the second year, we'll actually be able to get some growth in a cohort year to year. And so it'll be really interesting next year to see what's going on. So I will say, and this is anecdotal at this point, if we look at high school math, for example, we see a relatively low outcome here on the NWEA. To Ramona's point about sometimes these tests, we get varied results depending on the test, depending on the window, depending on the cohort of kids. Lakeland High School in particular, I know Timberlake did very well as well. I mean, they were one of the top schools in the state for their math ISAT. Performed very, very well. And so, again, to your point, I just want to recognize that sometimes these measures that we use in-house to show growth, while they're great, it doesn't necessarily mean that our kids are 51% proficient. It's just one measure of growth that we can
Right.
look at. So,
Well, and I like it can be used as a confirmation too. It's just another viewpoint.
yep, we can verify. So, well, trustees, that is the end of part 2. That's the whole continuous improvement plan. I know that I have some work to do to go back and adjust some of those things. I will do that. Again, thank you, Sierra, for taking notes for me. My plan is, this needs to be submitted to the State Board of Education by October 1st. And so my plan was to put this on next week's board meeting, regular board meeting for approval. That can still be my plan, if that's okay with you guys, and I will just have the approved members and I can stand up and answer any questions at that time. If you're comfortable with that quick of a turnaround.
I'm good.
Okay, sounds good.
Jake, thank you
Well,
for
if
your
you-
work.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Just-
that.
If you don't bring it next week, that would mean we have to hold another meeting, correct?
You would.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So I didn't want to present this as an option, but yeah, we could have another workshop. I don't
I
think
just
you
wanna
want to
look,
do
I
that.
don't think we.
Yeah, I don't think
there's
so. I think
just-
we-
Yeah, it needs to come to a meeting.
Yeah, you all have to do
More
your
meetings.
But,
No way.
with respect
These 2
to
weeks.
this,
Till you're done.
Section 7, I would encourage you to take the results, add 3% for consistency, continuity.
Yeah.
Because then at least, I do believe part of the reason we went to 100% was this was the first time this was added on to the SIP. and they didn't know what it would mean. And so I think they just were like 100%.
Let's shoot for the moon. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because this wasn't something they were tracking before,
Okay.
if I recall, because I think then
Yeah, the NWEA was a brand new assessment
it
last
was,
year.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
So I can absolutely do that. Well, again, I do really appreciate your time in listening to me talk for so long, and also your patience with me as I'm learning to speak your language a little bit and understanding the history. And I sure care about our students' growth, and I know all of our principals do too. And it remains our biggest focus area is making sure that with all of the other noise that can happen in a school district, our kids are here to learn.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we want to make sure that
Right
that's
there.
the best learning environment possible.
I think you're doing a great job, Jake.
Yes.
And I don't care if it takes 25 meetings, because it's all for the kids, I'll make 25 meetings. I mean, I lived here for 4 years straight. Every day.
Sure.
Went through the pandemic, 2
Yeah.
years.
Oh, yeah, that was
you
a lot
know,
of fun.
you know, but coming out of it too, so.
Well,
Don't
thank you for all your work on this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, greatly
Absolutely.
appreciated.
Absolutely.
Especially given how you gathered, what am I supposed to do?
He pulled me in and goes, Rusty, I don't know, man. Where do I get this? I don't know, man. I'm new.
We figured it out.
Yeah, we did. We talked it
You
out.
can always
For the most
ask
part.
Jake, you can always shoot an email or make a phone call or whatever, you know, hey, what did you guys do on this, or,
Yeah.
you know, we can get back to you.
Yeah,
One of us would know.
absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that very
Yeah.
much. I will say, Nicholas Wagner is his name, the gentleman who's the liaison for the State Board of Education. Phenomenal. I mean,
Good.
he is, what a great guy. Helped me out a lot.
Good.
So,
Good, that's great. So, do we have any further conversation, dialogue, or input that we need to provide on this SIP plan for the workshop?
No.
Oh, come on, Randy, give us something.
Nope.
No way.
That's nothing. Alright, well, Jake did, was very thorough, good job.
On
Yeah.
that note, then we can go ahead and end the workshop. It's 7:18. Good job.
Thank you for
Good
coming.
job.
God.
Ooh.